let me come back here and let's see if we can get some solutions. But Ace, a very good friend of yours, and I won't tell you who he is, later I'll do, wants me to ask you if you were engaged in training for the purposes of self-defense. If I were involved in Taekwondo, for example, and we were a lot of us, and we gather maybe every Saturday morning to do that, are we also offending the laws that you have referred to on military training and security service provision?
No. Those who know. An army officer also sent me a text and said, we know the difference. That's the first indication is calling the people to attention. He said, when I watched the video, I knew that some military-style person has been training them, as they themselves admit. And this is a military person engaged with the UN right now. So he says, we can tell if it's a military-style training, and that when I watched the video, the ability to call them to attention is the first detail before the rest happen. And so, look, we all know Taekwondo training. I've said on this, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, looks like a duck, it is a duck. And so, if we want evidence on what amounts to military training, we are all the soldiers in Ghana can tell. But we need to get into this. In the lead up to independence, NLM-CPP clashes. It led to the formation of two groups, the action troopers by the NLM and the action groupers by the CPP. The height of their fight was between 1954 and 1956, where literally what we had on our hands in Ghana was a civil war quietly happening. People were being maimed, killed, butchered, all in the lead up to independence. This doesn't stop after independence. So right from the very beginning, the concept of power became militarized. Once you have power, you exercise it by brute force. And if you exercise it by brute force, the other people also militarize to meet the brute force. And with this, I'm talking about the militarization of the civil support system. But you find that this ultimately dovetails even into the military system. The confusion at the time and the violence at the time led to significant attempts on Nkrumah's life. 1962, Kulungugu, right? But I think the close Kulungugu was dangerous. But Ametewe in 1964 and the killing of Salifu Dagati at the Flagstaff House was interesting. In fact, I printed out Salifu Dagati's words about Ametewe's words that he meant to shoot the president. Yeah. But Salifu Dagati first offered his body and allowed the president to escape. And so as he shot at the president, he ended up shooting Salifu Dagati. That's what he claimed. Of course, the court found him guilty. That was on 2nd January 1964. Before this time, there was a part of the army called President's Own Guard Regiment from 1960. But at the time, they were basically ceremonial. But definitely from 1964, there was the need, Nkrumah saw the need to militarize them. So they moved that body from 1964-95 and 64-65 into a full regiment, which is some believe had over 1,200 men, 1,200 staff, personnel, by the time of the coup. And then brought in a very interesting character in Ghana's history, Colonel David Bon Zanerugu, to be the commander of it. And indeed, history shows that the President's Own Guard was so well resourced that the military was envious of them. Come 24th February 1966, when the coup happened, the real battle was between the military and the President's Own Guard. The President's Own Guard, according to history records, were trained in the Soviet Union. They were crack, heavy, they knew how to fight. They held out for 3 days. Colonel Zanerugu was not arrested till 27th February 66. And he says that it's basically because they ran out of ammunition. They were that well trained that the whole army was after these people, and it took three days to arrest Colonel Zanerugu. In fact, when they arrested him, he was such a high quality person, that when he wrote a letter on toilet roll and smuggled it out of prison, he was tried for smuggling, for abetment of smuggling. Go and read it. It's reported. Zanerugu versus the state. He was freed by the Court of Appeal, you know, throughout the conviction. So Colonel Zanlerugo's people showed that maybe there's a missing middle between the police and the military. Is Ghana ready to recognize this? That maybe for our political leaders, because of our historical antecedents, the violence, the coups, that you are not even sure that your bodyguard, who you didn't choose, is not part of the coup against you, because there are stories, and I'll mention some of them, where the president was arrested by his guard as part of the coup. So the guard was part of the coup. Yeah. Will you trust a military person who is made your guard, whom you don't know, with whom you have no links, and there's no loyalty? Let's skip all the other regimes, because really we went to PP 2 years, they were out. The military came in, FRC came in, we went to PNP 2 years, they were out.
During Leman's time, there were 19 coup attempts. 19. So that still shows you that.
In 2 years.
Yeah, 19. Absolutely. There's an book.
Yeah, but there are some things that I know one of the people who was arrested for one of the coups personally. If you check the names, you might find a link. But
there's a lawyer too.
Yes. I know about that. Yeah. Now, so come the rolling school. He was not prepared to allow this to happen. There was a deliberate decision to militarize all aspects of our society in support of revolution. Exactly. So there were the PDCs, although they said militarization doesn't really mean they've been given arms, but there's a certain level of training for the communities. There was WDCs. Yeah. Later they became committees for the defense of the revolutions. In fact, on top of them, there was the NDC, the National Defense Committee. Yeah. There was the CDRs. The Mobi squads. They were military. There was the People's Militia. They were called militia. They were trained. Go back to our legal history. Adekura versus the Republic. Adekura was the commander of a militia that was posted in Bolgatanga to prevent smuggling from the Tono irrigation process, the site. He saw a vehicle coming. He stopped the vehicle. The vehicle didn't stop. He had an AK-47. He fired 5 rounds into it, killed a student, was tried, convicted of murder, and this was 84. And in 87, he was pardoned and freed. Come to Circle. The Salifo Amankwa Circle City Guards was a militarization of an attempt to make Ghanaians disciplined. And those times, if you walk around Circle, it is marked with white. If you stray into the white, you are arrested. People were arrested, subjected to physical exercises and beatings for littering and for walking out of the designated walking spaces. In the process, somebody else was killed. Salifo Amankwa was arrested, tried, convicted for murder, and freed. And so there was the militarization, but the critical one was the commando unit, which became the Forces Reserve Unit, became Forces Reserve Battalion, and became the 64 Infantry Brigade. And if you look at the job, their job was to protect the president and the revolution. So this was a president who had come out of the military. But he felt that his personal protection and the protection of VIPs needed another unit. Look, when the constitution was coming into force, they integrated this FRB into the military. It wasn't until 2003 that integration was completed under Dr. Adukufo. There's a GNA story which shows that it was in 2003 that the full integration of the commando unit, which became FRB, etc., was integrated into the army. But on the ground, nobody has stopped building these groups. NPP, NDC, and I believe some of the smaller parties have all had these people, because look, as the presidential candidates move around the country, they require security help. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let's stop kidding ourselves. There's a lot of violence that is going on the political space that we sitting in Accra probably do not see. Well, when they made the mistake of really bringing it into Accra, we set up a commission to investigate. And so historically, you sought to match yourselves by brute strength. Ghana, that is the truth. Are we going to go on from here, or are we going to stop it? Well,
do you believe we are going to stop it?
Well, if we want to. Well, and look, if you look at the history, when it comes to elections, the forces are so dissipated that we don't see a certain level of violence. It happens in some police stations, but it's not that concentrated. But if it is a by-election, then all the evil forces are concentrated in one small space, and so we begin to see Etiwa, Tripoli, and the little Akwetian wasn't really a by-election, just for 6 police stations. The violence you see there has been cooking for years. The people involved in the violence know each other. In fact, some of them have worked at opposite sides. And so they are unleashed. And look, everybody, take a look at the video on the beatings at Ayawaso. Deputy Superintendent Azugu is the commander, was supposed to be the commander. Look at when the beating started. Azugu was telling the people who were working under him to stop.
Yes.
They disobeyed him. Now, no properly trained military force would disobey the commander. If the commander says stop, they stop. The fact that the commander was asking them to stop, but those attired boys were still beating the person up, shows you that there was a major breakdown of the authority structure on the ground.
So quickly in a minute, do you trust the present process that is being initiated?
Look, the day after, when we had seen it, and when Occupy Ghana had seen the videos and had been aware of this history, we demanded a Chapter 23 Commission of Inquiry. The government didn't respond, and literally, we were on the verge of issuing a statement that said we're going to court, when the government issued the statement that it was set it up. So we issued that statement as well. And then we endorsed the Commission of Inquiry. We have complete confidence in the people who were chosen. And you can see it. Justice Short, in this calm manner, and having dealt with, you know, he was at the Arusha court.
Arusha court, yeah.
So he knows about these things. Professor Mensah Bonsu, breath of fresh air. You know, my prof from Legon days. The former IGP, his questions are practical. He knows the beat. You know, we have seen how people who have gone there thinking they are going to lie have been so interestingly exposed. I hope that those who are exposed will be tried for perjury.
That's right. Yeah.
But we have grown men prepared to go and sit there and tell plain lies. I hope that they are tried for perjury to serve as an example. But there are some offenses that are never tried in Ghana, like perjury and bigamy.
So it is the Emil Short path that you trust?
I believe that on the 3rd level, if the Emil Short Commission goes beyond just Ayawaso West Wogon and begins to delve into these issues, some of these things that I'm talking about will come up. But let's agree on one thing. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 entities that can stop this. 2. New Patriotic Party, National Democratic Congress. You guys are the source of what we are talking about. All of these have their roots in you. Let's stop the hypocrisy and blaming of each other. NPP, NDC, you are the source of this. You may not own them directly on paper, but you know the boys. You know when to harvest these boys to use them.
Okay.
So this is my view. Let's lock up the president, the ex-president.
What do you say? Lock up president?
Yeah, the president. Not arrest.
Okay.
The president, ex-president, ex-president Rollins, ex-president Kufuor, the chairman of MPP NDC, and keep the key to they come up with a solution.
And the mediators.
Well, no, the 6 of them should mediate among themselves.
Oh no, we need civil society present.
Yeah, civil society.
Yes.
No, they can solve this. They are the source of this. And so if we give this the opportunity...
Wait. I won't let you speak further before national security invades.
No, but there's a last...
Once you are asking for the president to be locked up...
No, the numbers are huge. Nobody has the statistics, and I'm not going to throw a number out here before it becomes a headline.
Okay.
We may have to ask ourselves as a nation that there are people who have known this as their source of livelihood. Is Ghana prepared to settle them as a price for getting our peace? I understand there are thousands. That it is time to not just disband, to demobilize them and let them re-enter life. Is that the price we are prepared to pay? And then let's begin to ask ourselves, is it time for that medal, that national security force, properly recognized? Because this force is an illegality. I could take you back to PNDC, where under national security provisions under the PNDC,
okay, sorry.
were 42.
So,
anyway, maybe I've said more than I can say.
Thank you.
But I'll come to the critical point.
So